Hey, what up my fellow Trekkies? I'm Stu Jackson here with Hailing Frequencies, and I'm here because we have had a load of new viewers and subscribers to the channel, which is fantastic, and you are of course all very, very welcome. But it's been suggested that because one of our flagship shows on the channel here is our Star Trek Adventures roleplay game, which we play mostly every other Wednesday live on the channel. We've been running it for 3 seasons now, 3 years, we're into the 3rd year now. So it was suggested by one of our players, Chris, that it might be a good idea to do some kind of catch-up video for new viewers. Now, of course, we do recommend that you go back and you watch it from the beginning and you watch all the episodes. The video technique has improved over time, so kind of do bear with it through some of the earlier episodes. It's worth it. I promise you that. But if you wanted something a bit quicker to catch up, I say quick, it's running at about 40 minutes at the moment. But you see, in each episode, we catch up the previous episode by doing a log. It might be the captain's log, it might be the science officer's log, might be someone else's log, but we catch up the previous week's events that way at the beginning of each episode. So I thought I'd put together basically all the logs. So you've got a really simple way of catching up. So here we are with season 1. This is the logs plus a few other bits and pieces to help add to context. Make sure you stay to the end because there's a very special video from a very special friend as well. You don't want to miss that. So yeah, so enjoy this. There will be a season 2 one coming out in the next couple of weeks. But in the meantime, do dive in and join us live. Like I say, it's every other Wednesday here on the channel. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification icon so you get notified when we do go live, and we'll look forward to seeing you there. In the meantime, enjoy this special catch-up video. The USS Livingstone, a Defiant class vessel with a difference. The year is 2380, so the Defiant class space frame has been around for some time. But this is actually a prototype variant of the Defiant class. It's a bit sturdier, it's slightly larger, although not much, but to compensate for basically being overpowered. And the hope is within Starfleet that they'll be able to use the space frame for exploration, rescue missions, more normal Starfleet stuff rather than just blowing shit up, which is what it was previously designed for. You have sat in the captain's chair a rather attractive middle-aged Denobulan woman by the name of Captain Liera.
She sees before her commander, Commander Eelin Wraal from Trill. He's been on board the ship approximately 6 months. He's only a fairly recent addition to the crew, allocated to Captain Liera, but they've been getting on quite well over the past 6 months and getting to know their new charge. And they're looking forward to meeting 3 new senior officers who've been recently allocated to the ship.
This is Lieutenant Commander Bosh. He's a Ferengi, a little bit taller than sort of average for a Ferengi, but still quite short in sort of compared to the rest of the crew. And he's, yes, your chief medical officer. This is his first run out with this crew. Been on a few ships beforehand, but nothing really of this caliber.
You have Lieutenant Commander Lee Varren. He is a human. He's got dark hair. He has a large beard, and he's probably early 40s, I would assume. He is. This is his first outing on, as Ed said, a ship of this caliber. He's been in Starfleet for a number of years doing various things, and he had a previous life being an engineer before this. So he's excited and happy to be here.
Okay, so I'm playing Davok, who is a Vulcan, and surprisingly, he's the science officer on the ship. He is not very used to doing anything in space. This is his first time out, and he's just not really sure what's going to happen. So we'll just have to find out.
And we fade into the mists of memory, and you find yourselves standing in a lobby at Starfleet.
Cadet's log. Stardate 52499.8. Today begins the moment that my years of academy training have been leading up to, the Kobayashi Maru test. This is the test that will determine if I am able and competent enough to command a starship of my own. I am, in a word, terrified, but I know that I need to show a strong front, especially for the newer cadets assigned by the instructors. Many before me have taken this test, and now it's my moment. Hopefully, I can make history today.
Admiral Janeway is explaining that the USS, I'll get this name right, Alcubierre, excusing my pronunciation.
Mon Dieu.
Yeah, the USS Alcubierre has disappeared whilst running tests in a fairly empty part of space, just on the edge of claimed space. So it's on the edge of the Federation, next to a no man's land, if you will. And it was running tests on a new style of warp drive, one that will hopefully avoid ships doing damage to subspace when they go over warp 5. They've not been heard of for a week, and the USS Livingstone is the closest ship and needs to go and investigate.
Commander's log. Stardate 57075.8. After receiving instruction to investigate the USS Alcubierre missing whilst testing an experimental warp drive on the edge of Federation space, the Livingstone found the ship adrift with minimal power and no life signs. Subspace interference prevented us from using transporters, so, taking the best possible officers, we set off by shuttle to investigate. I heard an old Earth expression once: when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. The lemons I've brought with me seem to be making good lemonade, indeed, albeit in surprising ways. We quickly discovered Romulans on board who were less than friendly. Chief Medical Officer Bosh has shown surprisingly adept use of a phaser, especially for a Ferengi. And special mention should go to Lieutenant Davok for his excellent medical abilities in the field. Lieutenant Commander Lee Varren, however, has shown a surprising display of aggression. I genuinely thought he was going to kill the Romulan Eelin with his bare hands. Perhaps
I did too.
Closer eye on Mr. Varren. We're clearly in a dangerous situation and have many questions yet to answer. What are the Romulans doing on board? Was it they who slaughtered what appears to be the entire crew, including Captain John Kelly and his senior officers? Who sent us the cryptic message wanting us to meet in stellar cartography? Perhaps the unconscious Ulan at our feet has some answers, or maybe our comrades who just escaped into the Jeffries tubes do. Fortunately, we lemons have a cunning plan.
Chief Medical Officer's log, stardate 57076.2.
Security officer is a dick.
Romulans have overrun the USS Alcubierre, a ship with an experimental warp drive that we have been sent to investigate the disappearance of. Ordinarily, when dealing with Romulans, I fall back on the rule of acquisition 34. War is good for business. However, given the state of the Alcubierre's crew, rule of acquisition 15 seems to apply more. Dead men close no deals. We found one crew member alive, although an engineering ensign who's filled us in with many details regarding the invading force, and intriguingly, that the warbird that was called away into a Klingon station, leaving the troops on board for some reason. He didn't ask anything in return for this, which concerns Rule of Acquisition 218, which does state, sometimes what you get for free costs you entirely too much. My associates are proving quite capable, even if they don't show any signs of having the lobes for business. Commander Wraal is proving very capable, showing the truth of Rule 58 that there's no substitute for success. Our security officer, Varren, is a fairly unusual human. He shows great aptitude for violence, but he also seems increasingly regret it. He definitely is applying Rule 33, though, where our commander is concerned. It never hurts to suck up to the boss. He's managed to acquire an interesting knife from one of the Romulans he dispatched. It looks quite ornate and is probably worth a few strips of latinum. Wasted on Lears, he seems to see the value of anything but the price of nothing. As for our science officer Davok, what else is there but to quote Rule 79? Beware of the Vulcan's greed for knowledge. We're currently making our way back to the shuttle bay, avoiding main engineering, which is where we believe most of the remaining Romulans are, which suits me, for Rule 23 says nothing is more important than your health. Except for your money. My associates have just taken care of a Centurion and an Ulan, and we approach the entrance to the shuttle bay.
Security Chief's log, stardate 57076-3. I hate this ship. We've been sent to investigate the Alcubierre, which ceased communications some time ago, only to discover the ship infested with Romulans and all but one crewman killed. The one who survived is the younger brother of the ass who nearly tanked my Kobayashi Maru test at the Academy. Like I said, I hate this shit. The rest of the team are formulating a plan to incapacitate the remaining Romulans, who have holed themselves in engineering. And I remain cautious but hopeful regarding its success. In my experience, there are a few problems that can't be solved by a well-placed phaser shot. Instead, which may be our backup plan if all else fails. Having obtained some Neurozine gas from medical, Dr. Bosh seems convinced that he can distribute it through the engineering, and we have arrived just outside of the main doors to it.
Science Officer's Log, stardate 57076.8, Lieutenant Davok reporting. We are thankfully back on board the USS Livingstone following our unsettling experience aboard the USS Alcubierre. You know I was going to mess this up. Alcubierre, there we go. The entire away team proved surprisingly capable when it came to securing the ship from the Romulans. I say surprising, as they excelled in ways I could not have predicted, although working alongside such emotional, volatile species, predicting behaviours is somewhat challenging. Our Chief Medical Officer shows exceptional restraint for a Ferengi, and our First Officer Wraal displays a distinctly logical mind that would not be altogether out of place on Vulcan itself. Security Chief Varren, however, seems to allow emotion to dictate most of his actions, which only serves to confirm what I already believed about humans. It would seem that the Romulan commander of the Legion, who attacked and took control of the ship, was under the influence of the same species of neural parasite that tried to infiltrate Starfleet some 16 years ago. Despite finding the creatures quite fascinating, I'm relieved on two fronts. Firstly, that there does not seem to be an overt act of war from the Romulans, given that they were being influenced by external force. And secondly, I'm personally relieved to be away from the situation. I find the concept of being controlled by another being and losing my self-control disturbing, to say the least.
We are joined by a very special guest joining us from Star Trek Sundays. We have Kira. Hello, Kira.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited to find what this is all about.
Acting Captain's Log, Stardate 57103.1. Commander Eelin Wraal reporting. I must admit to having mixed feelings about being appointed acting captain of the Livingstone whilst Captain Liera is indisposed. I appreciate the importance of the hibernation cycle to denobulans, but this couldn't have come at a more dramatic time. Starfleet crews are used to departmental and command structure change, and every ship's executive officer should expect to shoulder increasing responsibility in preparation for their own command one day. But still, after my own experience on board the Faraday, am I ready? The return of the neural parasites that invaded Starfleet 16 years ago has left us all rattled. Whilst we are certain that the Romulan Star Empire has been compromised, we don't yet know the full extent, and it remains to be seen if the Federation has been infiltrated too. I've noticed an air of suspicion amongst the crew, not knowing who among them may be working against us even now. Our orders are simple, albeit far from straightforward. We're to investigate Cmdr Station, the same Cmdr Station that called away the warbird Decius from the Alcubierre, where this mystery began. And to think, I used to have so much love for the Oberth-class ship. We've retrieved a Klingon from an escape pod in a nearby asteroid field, although he quickly died of some very seemingly self-inflicted injuries and seemed to have an unusual exoskeleton, as well as strangely thick cranial ridges, as well as neural parasite DNA mingled with his own. We are now approaching the station, which has gone dark with no life signs on board. I have an ominous feeling about what we will find there.
My character is a half Klingon, half Bajoran person, a Klingon Defence Force uniform. Klingon Defence Force log recorded under security log green 832 Hasperat. Hodar Dagog deserves reporting on this day, 39 in the year of Kalos 1006. Acting on the information received from Hakak in the Klingon Imperial Intelligence Division, I have managed to acquire a vessel and make my way to Cmdr Station. I trust Hakak completely, which raises a lot of questions about why I would not have been involved in the activities here, given my experience and knowledge. The ship broke apart upon arrival, being little more than a garbage scow, but fortunately, Starfleet's interference in matters that do not concern them paid off for once, and they were able to beam me out before I joined with the Prophets and Honoured Dead and Stovacor. I must get to the bottom of what is going on and determine exactly what the Federation is doing here too. I cannot be sure how they will react to the information I carry, nor my reasons for being here, so must employ caution at all times, particularly given the nature of this enemy to the Empire. The Starfleet crew have been somewhat useful in helping access the station logs, where we discovered that the parasite seemed to have come on board via the filthy Tellarites that shuttled back and forth between here and the Cordellan system. They also gained access to the infirmary, where the parasitic beings have been used to genetically alter the Klingon warriors we found within. This points to dark times, to say the least. For now, it seems I must keep close to these Federation puppets if I am to make my way to the Cordellan system and hopefully to the root of this. Prophets willing, though, I do not find myself surrounded on all sides by the dishonourable and untrustworthy.
Acting Executive Officer's Log, Stardate 57121.6. Security Chief Lee Varren reporting. Wraal has made me his exile, as if I didn't have enough shit to deal with on this goddamn vessel and with this crew. I really couldn't say no, though. It might draw too much attention. I don't trust our Klingon, Bajoran, whatever passenger. If the Klingons didn't send her here, then what the hell is she doing? That said, it would be just like High Command to feed us bullshit and call it cake. Major D-Bag has been very quiet, though, keeping herself in her quarters when not required. What are you playing at? These neuroparasites are an intriguing species, though. Despite being physically frail and easily squished underfoot, they do seem to exert strong control over the prey, making them a dangerous foe. They clearly need to be exterminated. I expect the rest of the crew will want to coexist peacefully or something. We do need to find out what they are doing with the Klingons, though. Hopefully, the answer to these weirdly mutated aliens and parasites will be at this mining outpost on Cordellan 4. Speaking of which, we've just arrived here, and now I have to beam down with an away team and pattern enhancers. The diamagnetic field caused by the moon's cache of ore is disrupting sensors. I'll be glad to get off the ship, to be honest. Today is something they call Valentine's Day. I've already received 3 communications from crew members wanting to date. Only if people this week could come up with anything so insipid. Damn it. This shit should be going on a report where anyone can read it. Computer delete log.
Combat log. Stardate 57121.6. Chief Petty Officer Rivoire Bartlesby reporting. We're under attack by Romulans. The Cordolan 4F mining colony has turned out to be another excellent test of Livingstone's security elites. Though until now, we've only really found many Klingon corpses, one of which we beamed to the ship for further analysis. The real casualties of this mission so far are tricorders and pattern enhancers. Chief Engineer Gomez is going to be furious when we get back. If we get back. The Tellarite freighter in the hangar is a bit of a mystery, as was the device Lieutenant Davok managed to deactivate, taking down the diagnostic field affecting the area. Now, if you could just help me and Bosh deactivate these super tough Romulan Tolzak that are shooting at us, that would be great!
Science Officer's Log, Stardate 57121.6. Lieutenant Davok reporting. We are continuing to investigate the abandoned Klingon mining outpost on Cordolan 4 with a view to finding as much information about the neural parasites and their machinations. Every answer we find seems to raise more questions, however. The Klingons seem to be mutating into a more primitive proto-Klingons when receiving parasites, as well as the parasites themselves, which become more bulky and armoured. After battling some Romulans, being controlled by the parasites, we encountered an unjoined Trill geneticist who has been working with them in order to help Klingons and parasites join symbiotically. I will be honest, there have been occasions I have questioned Starfleet recruiting a traditionalist Ferengi. However, Commander Bosh was instrumental in weaving a deception and gaining the Trill's trust. Certainly, for all my intelligence and logic, I would have struggled to do so myself. Infinite diversity in infinite combinations, indeed. Most disconcerting is the information gleaned that the parasite-controlled Romulans have discovered an Iconian gateway. If they can get it operational, they would pose a substantial threat, not only to the Federation, but to the entire galaxy. Whilst we don't know the location of the gateway, Tal Duron, the Trill scientist, has told us there are others down the corridor who may. Our acting EXO then called for him to be transported to the ship. There are many times I feel gratitude for being a Vulcan and having my emotional control, and this is one of them. Given the stakes and the risk, I would otherwise undoubtedly be, to use a human phrase, shitting myself. How fortunate I did not have to experience this firsthand.
Acting Captain's Log, Stardate 57121.8. Where to begin? Neuroparasites have returned as a threat to Starfleet, the Alpha Quadrant, and possibly the entire galaxy. This time through infiltration of the Romulan Empire. Our ongoing investigations have brought us to the abandoned Klingon mining outpost on Cordolan 4, where strange experiments seem to have taken place, mutating both parasites and Klingons, with a view to infestation of Klingons too. Our visiting Klingon Defence Force visitor, Major de Gork, is proving to be something of an enigma. Seemingly an expert on the neural parasites, her assistance in researching them proved invaluable. But why was her arrival here not sanctioned by the KDF? How did she know of the current threat? And most curiously, where was she surreptitiously beamed away to on her arrival at this outpost? Then there's our current EXO, Lee Varren. On the surface, he is an excellent security chief, if a little enthusiastic about his combat duties at times. And that's one of the primary reasons I selected him to lead the away team down to the outpost. But the cryptic advice from Admiral Janeway to keep an eye on him, along with a, what do the humans call it, a sixth sense. Anyway, I have a nagging feeling about Varren, and acting upon this, I've requested some information from his medical records. The away team have had their work cut out for them. They've managed to deactivate the device, enhancing the disruptive effect of the diamagnetic ore, but have ventured further underground into the base. Following an encounter with one of my countrymen, an unjoined Trill named Tal Duron, they had Tal beamed back to the ship, although very severely shaken, and under the impression that Starfleet would torture or even kill him. Tal has provided some very useful information about the parasite's attempts to join with Klingons, and most disturbingly, regarding an Iconian gateway that the parasites are currently repairing in order to use it to their own nefarious ends. The drama didn't end there, as Chief Medical Officer Bosh was suddenly beamed away to an unknown location by persons unknown, and for unknown reasons. Could this be connected with the Major's disappearance? Whatever happened to him, it left the away team short-handed when it came to dealing with the neural parasites and their hosts. Something that seems essential given the apparent uninfected prisoners they're holding for who knows what type of medical procedure. Tal is recovering from his ordeal in sickbay. Davok just called in for transporter lock on the away team, seemingly in the middle of a firefight. I've instructed Chief Engineer Gomez to get a lock, difficult as it may be in that deep underground with the disruption caused by the ore. In fact, I can see beads of sweat on her forehead right now as she makes her attempt. In the meantime, I will... Hang on. Incoming message from the surface. Computer, pause log.
Excuse me. Executive Officer's log, recorded under security lockout, Varren, Alpha 4, stardate 57141.4. Fuck! This is more convoluted than a Shakespearean comedy. Some species of neural parasites are threatening to take over the Romulan and Klingon empires. Apparently, tried with the Federation some years ago. Why the hell they didn't wipe the species out there, and then and why the hell they didn't wipe the species out entirely makes little sense to me. There are things certainly ellipsis different here, but what often looks like weakness from these people can also be a source of strength. At least it seems so. Lots to think about, although right now it's not the right time. The refraining Bosh has been returned to us from wherever the fuck he was taken. This happened a short while after I'm reading this for the first time out loud, so fuck you guys. This happened a short while after I called for my own beam out during a firefight with some parasites and their hosts. I expected to get in some deep shit for that, but Wraal was fortunately more oblivious than I realized. There were some uninfected aliens left behind on the surface, but actually, you know what? Who cares? A Romulan warbird decloaked in front of us. The Centurion in command wanted to work with us. Even the Romulans in this universe are weak. They sent us to coordinates of a planet where parasites are working to repair an Iconian gateway. This will represent a threat throughout the galaxy, and maybe even my home as well. Then a warbird unexpectedly blew up. Good riddance. Wraal and Bosh did actually surprise me in wanting the mining outpost destroyed, hostages and all. I would have been so happy to oblige, but that Nyrak? I don't even know what the word is. Nyrak. That Nyrak, Davok, got to fire the quantum torpedoes. It was such a beautiful explosion, though. I got a great deal of pleasure from seeing it. Right until the completers went down due to a virus from the fucking Romulans. Chief Engineer Gomez managed to purge the virus from the systems just in time as another Romulan warbird, presumably under the control of the parasites, was detected heading towards us. We're en route to the third planet in the Moana system. Fuck knows what we'll find there. When I first got here and realized actually where I was, I felt it'd be safe at least. How wrong I was. Especially now that I've gone through a psych evaluation of the fucking Ferengi. I haven't heard the results yet, but I'm sure they're wrong.
Chief Medical Officer's log. Sorry, computer, I don't think you're working properly. No, Chief Medical Officer's log. Lieutenant Commander Bosh recording. Stardate 57146.0. Rule of acquisition 62. The riskier road, the greater the profit. This should be the most profitable mission in history of the galaxy by that logic. No doubt, no doubt these Valel federations will find a way to prevent us making too much profit, though. It's all about reputation and the greater good with these people, except Varren. He's different. Still, I'm along for the ride, it seems, and Ruler's Action 69 tells us frankly are not responsible for the stupidity of others, especially Varren, as long as I'm not presented with the bill either. As far as, so far, we've encountered Romulans and Klingons infected with the neural parasites, fought them off only to discover that some Romulans might not be our enemies after all. We even had a Klingon Defence Force officer along a short while ago. It seems to be the guest of some humans that abducted me. I've still got no idea why, although these questions about transferring psychic abilities to non-psychic races, intriguing and quite possibly profitable. No sooner has the Livingstone arrived at the Moana system to hunt down the queen of these parasites, as well as the Iconian Gateway, which could also prove to be profitable if I can get my hands on it. And then that Fraxing Romulan warbird decloaked in front of us, firing its disruptors. War may be good for business, according to Rule of Actions 34, but scripts is certainly not good for my health or well-being.
And Davok, your sensor panel lights up. Incoming warp signatures.
Time to go!
There are 3 warps. No, there's 5. No, hang on, there's 7.
Captain, we need to get out of here.
There are 12 warp signatures coming in, and they're coming in hot. In addition to that, 8 neutrino signals surrounding the ship appear.
What are those?
8.
12 possibly Federation ships and 8 warbirds are just about to decloak.
Can we get out of here, please?
Indeed, 8 warbirds do appear surrounding the ship, and dropping out of warp are another 12 Dideridex warbirds. You are being hailed.
On screen.
The commander of a Dideridex warbird appears in front of you. Federation ship Livingstone. You have violated the neutral zone. You have destroyed Romulan warbird, and you have committed eco-terrorism on a planet close to our borders. Surrender now, or prepare to die. And at that moment, everything stops, as if time stands still. There is a bright flash of light, and the 4 of you find yourself in a strange, unknown black void. There's nothing. You realise you're not even there. Physically, you can't see yourselves. You're only aware of each other's presence in a way that you can't really fathom. You can't see, you can't move, you can't speak. And yet you can see. You can see that...
Are we in New Jersey? What happened?
You can see that you're in this black area, and then materializing in front of you is a red satin chair.
Ah, yes. That's enough of that, I think. I hate it when my favourite shows get cancelled too early. Oh, but I'm sorry. I should introduce myself. I'm Q. No, not that Q. I'm always being mistaken for him. You can call me... Q. Now then, I've been keeping half an eye on what you've been up to with those parasites. All very entertaining, I can assure you. I mean, Spotty here has been doing a tremendous job in lieu of Liara. She isn't any sleeping beauty, by the way. It's all been a bit of a ruse. But you'll find out. Maybe. Ah, and of course the mighty Bosh. Smarter than your average Ferengi. We all know rule of acquisition 33. It never hurts to suck up to the boss. Well, just consider me the boss of the universe. Because I am. Ah, and ever-logical Davok. Still a lieutenant. You'll be giving Harry Kim a run for his money if you don't get promoted soon. You hear me, Wraal? I said... Oh, never mind. You'll figure it out soon enough, no doubt. And, of course, my reason for being here. Varren. The man with more secrets than anyone. Or have you now? I'm afraid I stopped watching for a short while the Two Brothers was on interventional cable. Have you told them you're a Terran from what you hilariously and completely incorrectly call your mirror universe yet? Not that you are a Terran. Exactly. But you are. Sort of. Anyway, I know how fragile your corporeal bodies are, and indecision can be a huge source of stress on them. You see, Captain... Oh, may I call you Captain? You see, Captain, Varren has been wrestling with a dilemma. As the ancient Earth philosophers, The Clash, postulated, should he stay, or should he go? But I'll let him expand on that. Don't want to give away any spoilers for Season 2. And remember, Livingstone, I'll be watching. So keep it entertaining. Enjoy!
As you find yourselves back on the bridge of the Livingstone. But there are no warbirds filling the view screen or indeed on the sensors. In fact, there is only one ship in front of the Livingstone at the moment. It's a Defiant class vessel. And as the designation comes up on your screen, Amy, or Davok rather, you get the designation NX 7035 ISS Livingstone. And that is where we leave Season 1.
Hello to the crew of the USS Livingstone, or is it Livingston? I think that, I'm not sure, but I think you guys might be, some of you in the UK, and I know that some names we pronounce a little differently over here in the United States than in the UK, so I think it's Livingstone, but maybe Livingston. But anyway, congratulations on the completion of the first Star Trek RPG adventure by Acting Captain Eelin Wraal, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, who was a Trill, played by Ed. Security Chief Lee Warren. Did we discover he's Terran? ? Played by Usher. Chief Medical Officer Bosh, who was Ferengi, played by Matt. And Science Officer Davok, who was a Vulcan, played by Amy. Apparently, the crew saved the galaxy from neural parasites, dealt with Romulans, Klingons, and Section 31. Congratulations. I've never played the Star Trek RPG game myself. I get to be in essentially a live RPG myself, being in the Star Trek universe. So when I play my RPG, I like to go into a world and universe that I don't get to play in very much. But I think down the road, when I'm no longer an actor in Star Trek, I think I would very much like to play a Star Trek RPG. I'm sure it's really fun. But I hope that it brought you much joy and connection. And congratulations, and I wish you all the very best. Oh, yeah, and live long and prosper.